Hello, Astro fam. It is Myst here. Happy Pisces full moon. And I am here to spill the Astro tea. Most importantly, I'm here to give you all a little bit of perspective around what is happening at this stage in our astrological cycle. We are, believe it or not, almost at the very end of 2023. And there is a lot of representations within these cycles that we are approaching for the fall/winter season, of conclusions, and simultaneously conclusions come with new beginnings and a lot of reflection as well. So let's just dive right into it so I can get very specific and explain these further with you. And I'm actually going to pull up the chart here on the screen. So what you are looking at is the chart for the Pisces full moon, August 30th, 2023. For my advanced astrologers out there, this is a whole sign house system. So I'm working with the whole sign system for this interpretation. Also, the ascendant is based on central locations, College Station to be specific, in Texas. However, if you are here to just get the Astro tea, you do not need to know that. But I want to make sure everyone here is getting what would help them understand. So what am I having to bring up here? If you look at this chart, I'm going to be circling the sun. That red symbol right there is the sun. That is Virgo. We are in Virgo season. The energy of Virgo is present. Its thumbprint is happening throughout the day-to-day life of getting work done, getting organized, checking that list, taking care of the material world is what Virgo does. I actually think Virgo is truly the caretaker of our material life. And let's just say during this time of the year, Virgo season can really bring to our attention the details of the matters that need to be tended to that maybe we overlooked a little bit during the previous Leo season when we were having a lot of fun. But the more important point is that this is a full moon in Pisces. And what makes this a full moon is, I'm going to circle the moon right there. So that is clearly a moon symbol, this blue symbol here, and this is the symbol for Pisces. That is Virgo, that is Pisces. They are both at 7 degrees. So that number here, whenever you look at a chart and you see the number, that is the degree of each zodiac intelligence. And when they are in the same degree, but directly opposite each other, that is the full moon. This is literally the sun shining. That is not a straight line. Who needs straight lines anyways? But that's besides the point. Okay. The moon is being illuminated by the sun. The sun is shining its light directly onto the moon. So that's why on Earth we see here the full moon. So if you ever see that in your birth chart, in a friend's chart, the sun directly across from the moon, you will be able to know, okay, this person was born during a full moon. Fun fact. So with this full moon in Pisces, what's important? What should we be paying attention to? What matters here? And there's a lot of astrologers on YouTube. There's a lot of astrologers on the internet that will sit here and just tell you everything that maybe you want to hear, maybe things that you don't agree with. And if there's ever a time that I say anything that does not resonate with you, please honor your own guidance and intuition at all times when that happens, and evaluate for yourself, will this information serve me? However, I'm here to show you how this information is extracted from a chart while I give you the information. So if that's helpful for you, let's keep going. Let's go deeper. So we have the full moon in Pisces right here. When observing this chart, there is a huge split. I immediately noticed this huge split of energy on one region versus the other. Astrologers like to call this the seesaw effect. So just like the sun directly opposite the moon, shining its full light, its full intensity onto the moon to reflect back, there are a lot of planetary bodies that are projecting their astral light. This is light that we can't see with our own eyes sometimes, but it's definitely happening, back to another planet and getting this bounce back feedback. So internally, we can feel pretty polarized in our thoughts right now. And by polarized, this doesn't mean that everything is complete opposite and they don't correlate with each other. This could also be the extremes of our thoughts. And what are the themes of these thoughts? Well, we refer to the zodiac intelligences. Also beyond thoughts. The reason why I'm saying thoughts, however, is because the sun is right next to Mercury. That is this yellow planetary symbol here. And whenever planets, well, it's not right next, it's technically over 10 degrees away, 18 to about 11 degrees, 12 degrees. Can we do math there? It's about 12 degrees away from the moon, from the sun. But let's no, we're not going to get that specific. I know there's some specific astrologers out there that really look at the degree number. Still, Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it's actually getting closer every day because it is retrograding. So Mercury is the planetary body that deals with our thoughts, our communications. And if you're curious to know more a little bit about what this Virgo Mercury retrograde has to do with our evolution right now here on the planet, go to my YouTube channel and click on the video that I did about Virgo, or I guess I will link it here, because I go very deep with that. However, I will bring up that our thoughts are really big right now, especially with the retrograde. That is the symbol for retrograde, because that is it literally is the symbol that they use in medical terms. Kind of funny. But and on a more practical level, it's representing the opportunity to bring remedies through careful review. So whenever a planet is retrograding, which we're about to have about 6 planets retrograde, 6 this month, this coming up month of September. This is a lot of time to bring new remedies, bring new insights, and review our life, our journey, what we're doing here, how we're taking care of ourselves and relating with others. So this starts as a thought. But the core theme here with the full moon in mind is also Saturn. So similar to what we saw on the other side of the chart here with Mercury, we also have Saturn right next to the moon. That's the symbol for Saturn. And the zodiac intelligence of Pisces. So Saturn is having a very, very clear conversation, as clear as it can get with Pisces, with us during the full moon. So what does this mean? Well, Saturn's a very sobering planet. And if we think about the stereotypical understanding of Pisces, Pisces is not a sobering zodiac intelligence. It is very much more concerned about getting into a state of existential knowingness and into a state of being beyond the confinements of the material realm. Classically, it's associated with escapism, escaping the realities, escaping the responsibilities that on the other end, Virgo, the opposite sign, what our season of Virgo is, what the sun is very concerned about looking at the practical things, getting into the details, not escaping the duties. It's almost obsessed with being accountable. Pisces, on the other end, finds its accountability in the surrendering of the material. So I'm not saying that Pisces intelligence is at all avoiding being an accountable intelligence and being an accountable person. But it sees its purpose being more existential, more beyond what we can tangibly touch, see, and feel, and what we deal with literally in our faces on a physical level in our day-to-day lives. So this full moon could bring up a lot of opportunities to feel the need to escape the material, to get out of the construct that the material creates. However, with Saturn right next to Pisces, right next to the moon in Pisces, this is sobering down that need to escape. And I see Saturn bringing in lessons, bringing in this new understanding of how much time we actually need to follow a certain course, to go through a certain emotion so we can get that experience, so we can get the lessons that come with that time. A lot of times when I interpret Saturn in astrology, whether it's through a transit or a new moon, full moon, a birth chart, I see Saturn as bearing the clock of our lessons, the timeline of these sacrifices, the things that we have had to give in exchange for a deeper understanding of what it means to exist in a material world where there's powers outside of our own control that exist. And I feel that Pisces sometimes has this intelligence of Pisces really can be challenged by this understanding. So no, I'm not going to tell you that this full moon is just going to be this dreamy, whimsical, creative Piscean, floating back into heaven and the all the things that come with music and art and the beauty of surrender. Because Saturn is right there, and Saturn is beautiful. Okay, I know Saturn gets a bad rap, and I don't at all think that Saturn deserves that. I think Saturn has a lot more to do with really giving us those defining moments that we cannot forget, the consequences that we need in exchange for profound lessons to bring us another layer of enlightenment, another layer of growth, the next octave of our experience here on Earth. So this full moon can be very sobering. It can be a very huge reality check in terms of what we need to do, what you need to do, what I need to do in order to exist in a material world where there's responsibilities, there's deadlines, there's bills, there's jobs, there's having to be accountable for one's ability to survive. And Pisces might want to escape this. So it depends, right? We're having this seesaw effect, remember? So these energies aren't going to be expressed in a mixed way. I really think they're going to be on one extreme or the other, either the extreme of obsessing and really wanting to fix things and find out how to improve the survivability, the ability to cope with the material circumstances in life, or on the other hand, resisting that responsibility and wanting to escape that responsibility. And personally, I highly recommend to lean into the solar energy, what the sun season represents, and that's Virgo. So taking that time to be diligent, understanding that everything needs consideration and we need to learn to be a little bit more careful. But don't let this time to be debilitating. There's a sweet spot there. There's a sweet spot, and I think everyone will know when they've been a little too careful. But with 6 retrograding planets, there is something really profound happening September 3rd. That's where I'll start, where Venus is stationing direct. September 15th, Mercury is stationing direct. And whenever a planet stations direct, that means it is actually leaving its time being in retrograde. And before it actually finishes this review period, it's almost at a standstill. So that's what the stationing represents. It's the standstill energy that happens when a planet is preparing to shift back into a forward motion. And this is all happening at the beginning of September. Not to mention, while Venus and Mercury are preparing to finish their retrograde motion, but stationing direct, two other planets, Jupiter and Uranus. Actually, Uranus just stationed retrograde on August 28th. However, Jupiter will be stationing retrograde on September 4th, right around the same time that Venus is stationing direct. So what are you saying here, Myst? All the stationing and direct retrograde. Just know that there is a lot of traffic happening, a little dial up happening in the astro realm, which means here on Earth, as we receive these energies, and more specifically, the astral light, right? This isn't just some hyper convoluted theory of energy here. This is literally how we are biological beings that are sensitive to light, that impact how our cells move, how quickly we receive information, and function as a sovereign biological being. The light of these planets are switching gears. And this is a really good time to honor that pace and not feel the need for all of the answers to happen right now, to not want to escape when the moment comes where you're asked, are you going to sink or swim? To choose the middle. And I know that is kind of a strange thing to say, how like you're either sinking or you're swimming. Well, maybe you can float. I think that's the middle part of it, right? To float through the uncertainty, a little bit of the challenges, the deeper reflections that come, where quite frankly, we're just going to get at this sobering effect. So what does the sobering effect have to do with this full moon, right? We have Saturn right next to the moon. There are also other themes that are happening in communication with this full moon that's going to last for pretty much the next 30 days, but especially for the next 2 weeks as we get closer and closer into the September season here, which is the equinox season. I want to bring attention back to Venus because Venus had entered its retrograde period, its review period on July 23rd. And for quite some time since the North Node entered Taurus back in 2022, I will say this was closer to like the January of 2022. Our values, what we find important, what we find meaningful, what brings a sense of pleasantness to our life, what we want to prioritize when we make decisions. Am I going to do this or this? Well, what do you value? Right? That's Venus. What will be the more pleasant, the more harmonious result from that decision? Sometimes we have to make hard decisions. I think a lot of us have been making hard decisions. They seem hard at first, and then once they're implemented, they're a part of our lives and we adapt, which is a big thing with this full moon, with Virgo energy, with the intelligence of Pisces. This is adaptability. This is flexibility. This is the ability to survive regardless of the circumstances, to change and to adjust in order to survive. Venus entered Leo, and then it stayed in Leo for quite some time this summer. And Leo has so much to do with what inspires us, what moves us, what is our passion, what is true to our hearts, Leo loves encouraging that truth and to not hide it. So in a lot of ways, we might have been experimenting and rediscovering our own path. I mean, we've been doing this since 2020. However, this Leo dimension of it has a lot more to do with this inner character building, this inner look, and less of having the outer reflect it quite yet. But the reason why I'm bringing up Venus is because during this period over the summer, we have collected this passion of Leo, cultivated this flame of excitement, of ideas, of awakenings, of a bit more of who we want to be, how we want to show up, what we want our day-to-day lives to look like that are aligned with our heart's passion. And now Virgo is here. Virgo comes right after Leo. And this fuel, the seed of excitement, of awakening that Leo has just been cultivating throughout this Venus retrograde, going through all the back data of our lives, the decisions we made, the people we chose to be around, the places we chose to live, the jobs we chose to have, getting excited and with the clarity of that is for me, that is not for me. This lights up my heart. This does not light up my heart. Now it's being asked, can it stick to its heart's belief when the external world is complex and challenging? When the material realities around us, the powers that exist outside of us, which do exist, the structures that are set up in this world, when those challenge us, do we crumble? Do we run or do we float and adapt? I believe that's what this full moon is going to be asking us, especially on a financial level, especially when it comes to what sustains our ability to survive, doubts or insecurities or fears around that, challenges, real life challenges around that can show up, and it might call us to reconsider our values. And with these retrograding energies, that is okay. With these retrograding energies, it is completely okay to double check and make sure, do you truly value this character that has been cultivating, this path, this passion that has been cultivating all summer? Since April, to be honest, I think April, there was a huge drop of seeds of new intentions, aspirations, and a lot of us might have already started to reap. Actually, no, I'm pretty confident that we have already started to see those seeds sprout through the ground and become more in the real material world than it is in our mind than ever before. But we're watching them and waiting for them to grow, and the conditions around us can be demanding. The expectations around us can feel demanding. How do we handle that pressure? So that's what I think this full moon is about. And let's see, let me pull up this chart here, because I like hanging out with you all on YouTube. This is a different pace from doing Instagram Reels. I feel like when I did Instagram Reels, I had to talk really fast and get it all out. And now I'm just like, oh, let's just go back to the chart. Let's go look at it. So that's what I'm talking about here. This Saturn and moon right next to each other, very sobering. But what do we do with this Pisces intelligence? Because even though I would love to stick to Saturn as being strictly a material oriented planet, in this case, Saturn is referring to the zodiac intelligence of Pisces. So astrology 101 here, whenever you're looking at a chart, don't assume that just because a particular planet deals with a certain area of life, that it will always show up that way. We need to look at the zodiac intelligence that it's in. And if you're ever listening to things out there online and they're talking about Saturn, consider for yourself what zodiac intelligence is Saturn in your birth chart, or any planet in that manner. So in this case, for the collective, for full moon, Saturn is in Pisces. And I explained Pisces earlier, and it's very inspired and light energy. It can also be heavy and soggy if it doesn't let go. That's a big theme with Pisces, is letting go and being able to filter and purify what it is that is kind of tethering it down. So Saturn, being a very material, responsible, lesson oriented, I mean, there's no excuses with Saturn. It's not the most forgiving sort of planet, and it's intentional, because how are we going to learn that? How are we ever going to learn how to handle the things that are close in our heart if we don't understand the consequences when they aren't? When they're poorly taken care of, when we poorly take care of ourselves or our relationships. Saturn can bring down those consequences to help us grow. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but there's a lot of people who are having Saturn returns right now, or have gotten out of a Saturn return, and these are things to just consider. However, in the zodiac intelligence of Pisces, I'm seeing this as our spiritual knowledge. Okay, so we're getting a little out of the material now. Our higher understanding, our source consciousness, the beat of our spiritual diligence, intuitive diligence. And if this is hard to sort of grasp, how do plants grow, right? Let's go to a plant, right? They capture the sun, they absorb nutrients from the earth. They have a scientific process that I will not explain on YouTube here right now, but if you're curious, there's vast internet of information. They have a chemical process that allows them to grow. And they're beautiful. Some more than others, but they're beautiful. But what else is happening there that is beyond the material aspect of the plant growing? There's faith, right? There's a gardener, perhaps, who's going every day and doesn't see the full end result of the plant, but continues to water it with the belief that it's worth it. And Pisces belief nature is so strong. Pisces' ability to understand that from its belief, from its inner world that nobody can touch. It's an inner world that it has everything it needs. And everything around it in the external world can reflect the direct opposite. And still Pisces sees beauty. And that's the best way I can explain this inner guidance, this intuition that can speak to us in times of need and times of uncertainty. And it's calming and it's peaceful, and it kind of takes away the illusion of chaos and uncertainty. And that's Pisces in a healed state, right? There's a dual nature to everything. Just imagine Pisces in an unhealed state being the opposite, and losing faith and being unsure and being lost in the world and not quite sure, but we're not going that direction right now. If you want to, go deeper into Pisces, just book a one-on-one with me. And that's probably the one zodiac intelligence that's the hardest to explain, to be honest, because it's beyond words. It's an inner relationship that is felt. However, with that aspect being in Saturn, be gentle with yourself. Understand that we have this force of drive that's been cultivated, and it can be used in due diligence and good faith and careful measures and understandings and strategic right moments as the material world brings out demands for us to, quite frankly, go to whatever it is that we've pushed underneath the rug, the things that we were like, well, I'll get to it, right? Virgo's like, you're getting to it, ready or not. You have to face the realities, cannot escape and overlook the material realm. And that can be challenging. So allow that faith, that intangible, that inner world to kind of come in and support you as you deal with the material. Learn not to sink in the material realm, to not swim and struggle and push through the material realm, but learn how to float and observe and know when to act, and have a careful understanding of timing, because we're about to have a lot of retrogrades. And I'm I'm here too. I'm experiencing this too. So I can't sit here and tell you I've mapped out the entire chart of life and I know the answer is not at all. But I can look at this natal chart and clearly, not natal chart, this transit chart for the full moon, and clearly see that there's some tensions here, some polarities happening. So take care of yourself always. And let's see, is there anything? Making sure I ended on a full note here, because there's a lot happening in this chart. I didn't even mention that Pluto is retrograding still. And I think what I'll leave this on is something to look forward to, which is January, the beginning of January, the beginning of 2024. Pluto will enter back into Aquarius, which we got a taste of back in April of 2023, where that seed, that spark, this new understanding of what we want to do with our life, where we want to go, who we are, right? Aries is the North Node. Aries is I am, I do, period. Nothing else needs to be placed there in order to materialize for Aries. It just is, and it does. So, but we get to choose this path in several ways. So I do believe some of those ideas that might have come up for you around April, that maybe have been kind of pushed to the side in different ways or have started to grow, but right, we're being diligent gardeners, tending the garden of faith and trusting that despite the external appearances of things, something beneath the surface is growing, and it's a matter of time. It's a matter of learning and perfecting the craft of not the goals itself coming about, but knowing how to handle oneself and adapt in order to be there for those goals, if that makes any sense. It's in between the lines. We are in the margins of our manifestations right now. And to be okay with that, to float in the margins, to handle the material circumstances, and know that come January of 2024, it'll be a different chapter. Definitely. There's always a different chapter, but January 2024, we can look back to this time and be like, I'm so glad I learned that. I'm so glad I took that moment to handle that responsibility in my life, to go through that experience, because now you have more perspective. Now you are more capable of navigating with wisdom, without as much error, right? And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be like, crap, how did I get myself in this situation? That's good questions to ask. Because in those moments, that's when we can listen the most, if we choose to listen. So I'm going to leave it at that. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my YouTube. I plan to upload videos every week. If it's not a new moon or a full moon, it's something that is going to be very relevant to help us understand these energies as they come about. And if you want to work one-on-one, if you want me to show you how to do what I just did for this transit with your personal natal chart, go also to the link in my bio and we can dive deeper. And in the meantime, just trust. We have some rapid changes that have happened already, and there could be a couple of aftershocks, right? When there's an earthquake, it shakes up in that moment, and then it's okay, a little quiet, and then it happens again, just small. We could have a couple of aftershocks of changes, but this is how we are self-adjusting creatures, and every adjustment that's made, when it's done so carefully, when the energy is directed precisely, and then when the reality is measured into the factor, we cannot simply transcend the material reality within ourselves and think that the material reality that's around us is going to cease existing. And this is my opinion. We need to learn how to work with both. And I think this is a very sobering full moon where we're going to be asked to learn how to work with the material, to handle the consequences of the material, and to make do with what we have, and stick through it, float through it, but listen and learn. All right, that's it. And I'll see you all at the new moon. What new moon is it going to be? It's Pisces. Oh my gosh. I feel like the new moons and full moons have actually swapped. So I believe this will be the new moon in Libra coming up. So I will see you then, and take care.